flashing lights. In the zone, no losing sight. Pedal down, it's a blur of speed. Every turn just what we need. Drifting close to that white line. Pushing boundaries, feeling fine. Duracell cup, we race through night. Hearts are pounding, fierce and bright. Speeding past the checkered flag. Victory on the line, we brag. Helmet on, the world fades out. Focus sharp among the shouts. From the start to finish line, through the chaos we all shine. Grip the wheel tight, knuckles white. Thrill of danger heightens might. Crowds electric, senses burn. In this circus shadows turn. Lap by lap we chase the dream. Rivals' eyes flash in the beam. Sweat and tears we fight as one. In the end we rise like sun. We race through night, hearts are pounding, fierce and bright. Speeding past the checkered flag, victory on the line, we brag. Helmet on, the world fades out. Focus sharp among the shouts. From the start to finish line, through the chaos we all shine. Grip the wheel tight, knuckles white. Thrill of danger heightens might. Crowds electric, senses burn. In this circus shadows turn. Lap by lap we chase the dream. Rivals' eyes flash in the beam. Sweat and tears we fight as one. In the end we rise like sun. Sun, like sun. We rise like sun. We rise like sun. Engine roar, crowd goes wild. Fuel's on fire, adrenaline piled. Nights alive with flashing lights. In the zone, no losing sight. Pedal down, it's a blur of speed. Every turn just what we need. Drifting close to that white line. Pushing boundaries, feeling fine. Duracell cup, we race through night. Hearts are pounding, fierce and bright. Speeding past the checkered flag. Victory on the line, we brag. Helmet on, the world fades out. Focus sharp among the shouts. From the start to finish line, through the chaos we all shine. Grip the wheel tight, knuckles white. Thrill of danger heightens might. Crowds electric, senses burn. In this circus shadows turn. Lap by lap we chase the dream. Rivals' eyes flash in the beam. Sweat and tears we fight as one. In the end we rise like sun. We race through night, hearts are pounding, fierce and bright. Speeding past the checkered flag, victory on the line, we brag. Helmet on, the world fades out. Focus sharp among the shouts. From the start to finish line, through the chaos we all shine. Grip the wheel tight, knuckles white. Thrill of
Warning. The Duracell Cup Series data file you have attempted to access is out of date. Uploading current file now.
It's a brand new car from stem to stern, and it's never been raced at these speeds.
The next gen car is opportunity.
Everything is different with the exception of like the seat, the steering wheel, and your helmet.
Unknown creates excitement.
Talking about my generation.
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here as we get set for the 13th race of the 8th season of the NNSCRA Duracell Next Gen Cup Series here today from the Chicagoland Speedway. Final stop before the All-Star race break here. And last opportunity to lock yourself into the All-Star race if you haven't yet met the criteria. Well, I should say final points opportunity. Drivers will have the opportunity in the All-Star Open next week as well to try and get in, but that's going to be at a very difficult track, the unpredictable Atlanta Super Speedway. Here, though, getting ready for mile-and-a-half racing, multi-groove racing, and we talked about this yesterday during qualifying. More than likely, if you look at the past couple of racetracks we've been at, granted we had a super speedway a few weeks ago, a few races ago at Dragonette, but you look at I-69 Speedway, a track where track position really important. A lot of emphasis was put on qualifying. Last week, Darlington, no questions asked. Track position was key. Here at Chicagoland, with all the space there is available to race, really the draft going to come into play here as well. I think this is going to be, maybe of the last 3 or so races, the biggest opportunity for us to be able to see a lot of racing and a lot of drivers be able to make forward progress that didn't exactly put down the best qualifying lap here yesterday. A lot of big names starting middle of the pack out back. It'll be fun to watch and see if they are able to make their way forward, and also on the flip side, if drivers that qualified really well here yesterday will be able to maintain that track position from the start all the way to the end of this race. Speaking of good starting track position, how about Jose Mills? Hasn't missed a beat. Running part-time now in the All-Star car at Louisville Automotive. He's been that way for the last couple of seasons, but makes his first start here of Season 8, and where does he do it from? The pole position. How about that? Great job by him. Most winningest driver in the Duracell Cup Series. Only driver that has reached double digits in all-time wins. Comes in 10 wins to his name, and he'd love to make it 11 here. Even in a part-time capacity, he'd love to add yet another notch into his belt for the all-time wins list. Alongside of him, Jack Mitchell. Now, Jack is an interesting one just in terms of the momentum coming into this week because he's put together an incredible first half of this regular season. He's been able to net 5 top 5s, 5 top 10s. He's 5th in overall points. But if you're looking in terms of momentum from last week, it wasn't great. He didn't qualify well at Darlington. He never really made up much ground. He finished towards the rear of the field. As a matter of fact, I believe he either finished just barely on the tail end of the lead lap or a lap. I think he was just barely on the tail end of the lead lap ahead of Connor Breton, that final run to the checkered flag. So it wasn't a good day. The good news for him, though, is he's been so consistent the other races that he didn't lose much in the point stands. Only dropped 1 spot, and he's still only 41 points out of the points lead. So Jack looking to kind of put Darlington in the rearview mirror, focus here on Chicagoland, and keep this momentum, this good mojo going into the second half of the regular season, as right now looking like one of the key contenders to potentially make it into the playoffs. Got some other drivers back in row 2 that they're looking for some good momentum. One of them is Jesse Turner. Jesse, we talked about this yesterday in qualifying as well. There are some names down there near the lower half of the point standings that have been title contenders just about every season. Keith Batson is mired down there outside the top 20. Jesse Turner is mired down there outside of the top 20 right now, 35th in the point standings. Dylan Young, who's right behind him, starting 5th, he's mired outside of the top 30 in the point standings. These are drivers that we're used to seeing just about every season make some kind of a push into the playoffs and usually are quite competitive when they make it into the postseason. But they got to get the season turned around. And honestly, you don't want to have to rely on the second half of the season to dig you out of the hole that you put yourself in the first half of the regular season. So even here today, even though we've still got the All-Star break coming up before we go to work in that push towards the playoffs, even here is an opportunity to get the season turned around. We saw Dylan Pote kind of do that last week with a great run at Darlington. He was down outside the top 20 in points, and now he's up inside of the top, I believe, the top 22, I believe, or something like that. So, there is the opportunity to be able to get the momentum going right here, right now, and Jesse Turner would certainly be looking to do that. Another driver that's started alongside of him that's been a big topic of our interest here the last couple of weeks is Destin Bolin. Destin has had a good-ish season because the consistency has not been there, but he has got 2 trips to victory lane, going to victory lane at both Pocono and Texas. Destin, as a matter of fact, as well, is starting to really climb up the most wins list. He's now got 5 overall wins here in the Cup Series. But the problem for him is with that inconsistency outside of those 2 victories, he has been hovering down around that 30th in the standings cut line. Now, last week at Darlington, did a good job, had a decent run, moved up a couple spots in the standings. He's now 23rd in points. He's not safe, but he does have 19 points between him and that cut line. So he is steadily progressing up through the points, and obviously, as we have with the new playoff format, and him having multiple wins inside the top 30 in points, he is in the second wildcard seed, only to Matt Haas, who is higher up in points with him, also with multiple victories on the season. So, good starting track position here for him as well. And we'll see if he's going to be able to keep that here this afternoon. We talked about Dylan Young. He is down there in the point standings. He ran poorly last week at Darlington. Man, he really needs to get this season turned around. And Keith Batson alongside of him. Batson's kind of been persona non grata. We've not really talked a whole lot about him this season. That's because he's just not really been there. Only 1 top 5 and 2 top 10 so far here this season, 24th in the point standings. So a lot of drivers that we're used to seeing up there in the playoff conversation season after season need to get something going right here, right now, before the All-Star break. Let's go down trackside, though, as it's time to get these cars rolling. We'll give you your playoff standings and everything here in just a moment, but the command to fire them up is right now.
Drivers, start your engines!
Bottom right of your screen, you'll see the starting lineup for this afternoon's race from Chicagoland. James Qualls hung on for a top 15 last week at Darlington despite a poor qualifying effort. Still holds the points lead now over Levi McIntyre, who is only 4 points back, up now in the second position. Carson Gum dropped a spot in the standings from second to third. He's 27 points back. Alexander Rowe with a solid run moved up to fourth. He's 32 points back, and fifth is Jack Mitchell, 41 points out of the points lead. Ryan Brommer, Benjamin Miles, Matt McIntyre, Joshua Osborne, and Quentin Moore. That is your top 10 in overall points coming into this race. Matt Haas holds the number 1 wildcard seed, 2-time winner on the season, 12th in overall points. Destin Bolin, we talked about, has the 2 wildcard seat. He's 23rd in points, also a multi-time winner. Eric Sadler fell out of the top 10 last week, but has his victory earlier on this year from North Wilkesboro to put him in the 3rd seed. He's 11th in overall points. And Connor Breton, after his victory last week at Darlington, 4th win of his career, moved up 13 spots in the standings, up to 25th in points. He's in the number 4 seed right now. 2 drivers, 2 former winners, Daniel Voiles, Nathan Norman, are 31st and 32nd, so they're outside of the playoff grid, which means that Michael Norman and Nick Gunther, 13th and 14th in points, they are in the 5th and 6th final seeds for the wild card spot, but that could all change as we are racing here at Chicagoland, and Jose Mills will lead them into turn 1. And already they're looking to utilize all 4 grooves here through the corners onto the back straightaway. Well, we can't really call it a straightaway. Chicagoland actually has a curved backstretch. As Jose Mills comes around, he'll lead the first lap. Mitchell into second, Boland to third. Turner now under fire. Here comes Autumn Brooks. And Dylan Young going to try to shoot the gap up the middle. Look at them all utilizing every single lane, trying to straddle those seams, trying to figure out where the momentum is at. Is up ahead, Destin Boland to the inside of Jack Mitchell. That's going to be for the second spot. And Boland is going to take it. Nice slide job there by the Frosted Flakes Dark Horse Mustang. Jesse Turner now going to dive to the inside here on Autumn Brooks for the fourth position. Mitchell back for second. As Jose Mills starting to open up a gap, hooking it right down on that white line there through 3 and 4. Oh, close contact nearly there between Jesse Turner and Austin LaPlante around the 6th, 7th position. Carson Gum, two-time winner in the middle of this as well. And 3 wide behind them. That includes last week's winner Connor Breton making a couple of passes. He got 2 for 1 there. Batson and Monaco, but now he's up on the top side. Monaco in the middle. Here comes Eric Sadler, the rookie on the bottom. Actually, a couple of rookies there side by side. That's for 13th place. Daniel Voiles, who needs to get back up in the top 30 in point standings right there in the Coca-Cola Zero, number 26. As Michael Norman going to work here. Cracked the top 5 and now looking for 4th on the rookie Autumn Brooks. Another driver we'll be keeping an eye on here in this race, the defending winner, Jessica Shelton. This is where Project Dodge Intrepid got their very first win for S3 Motorsports, one of 3 victories Jessica would pick up on her championship season. And Jess has been really struggling this year. Maybe this is the venue where it all began, that she'll be able to maybe get that momentum back, find something in the second half of the regular season to get her up into championship contention, defend her title from season 7. Jose Mills about to have some company. Destin Boland is closing in, and the Fords were really strong yesterday in pole day qualifying. You got 3 of them right now up inside of the top 5 and about to have 2 of them battling for the race lead. Ooh, went way up the track. Apologies for that. Sticky keys coming into play here. But Jesse Turner was way up the track and almost brushing the wall there for a brief moment. Now he and Carson Gum side by side. Michael Norman trying to make a move there. Has to tuck back in line in the 3rd position. Unscheduled pit stop for the 61 of Anthony McCrory. Anthony is currently 2 laps down. Not sure what's going on with the Panda Express Mazda. We'll try and find out the reasoning for that. He was able to get it to pit road, so no caution. But Anthony, who ran poorly last week at Darlington, dropped 7 spots in the standings to 37th. Looks like it's going to be another bad points paying week for him here at Chicagoland. Now, we were going to, before we had the whole sticky key situation, go on board with Destin Boland and take a listen of how he's working to get up there and take the lead away from the grizzled veteran Jose Mills. Let's take a ride as he's now in a good fight with Michael Norman for second. Austin LaPlante on the move, started 10th. You just saw him with that onboard take the second position away from Destin Bolin. And now he'll set his sights on Jose Mills for the top spot. Look at the 0-2 way up the racetrack there as Michael Norman trying to get to his inside for the third spot. I said yesterday, if you were a betting person, you might want to put money on a blue oval to win, but the Chevrolet's looking pretty good right now on the long run, as Austin LaPlante has been able to work his way up through the top 10, now has his sights set on the 82. Jack Mitchell, another Chevrolet, now in the 5th position. Good four-way battle back here with himself, Autumn Brooks, Carson Gum right there as well, and rookie Eric Monaco. Last week going into the Darlington race, we talked about with, at that point, 11 completed races. It was really interesting that our 4 full-time rookies, as here's the battle for the lead, and it's over as quickly as it started. LaPlante clears, and he'll go to the point. But it was interesting, only 1 point separated all 4 of our full-time chartered rookies in the Rookie of the Year standings. That has since changed. Darlington changed it up a little bit. It's now 2 points separating them, with Summer Henson in control of the points lead. Daniel Bouchard, Eric Sadler are tied for second, 1 point back, and Eric Monaco is right now 4th of the 4 rookies, but he is only 2 points, as mentioned, out of that rookie points lead. We talk about the hardships of Jessica Shelton. How about Austin LaPlante? This is another driver that really needs to get the season turned around, and it has to happen right here. He can't wait until midway through the second half of this regular season. LaPlante comes into this one currently situated 40th in overall points. That is the lowest of all the chartered drivers. An average finishing position of 30.17. Even the qualifying effort number is not all that great, as he has an average starting position of outside of the top 20. He's only got 1 top 10 this entire season, no top 5s. This could be the turnaround point for LaPlante, who appears to have a very strong race car. He was able to make good forward progress after starting near the back of the top 10. Was the only driver so far to get around the post leader Jose Mills, and right now he's able to maintain a pretty good gap here, putting together some good consistent lap times between himself and second place. We have an update on Anthony McCrory. We saw him on pit road. It was indeed a mechanical failure on his Mazda. They have since pushed him back behind the wall. He will finish 42nd here tonight. An engine camshaft, the diagnosis. Didn't get very far into this one, and the struggling season continues for the co-owner of Garage 55. Looking at one of his cars here in Autumn Brooks. We talked about it yesterday. Last week at Darlington, career Cup Series race for Autumn Brooks. However, she finished in the 40th position. So how was it a career race for her? She ended up fighting her way to the front and led over 50 laps in that one. Had, honestly, the strongest car. It would have been interesting to kind of match her up against Connor Breton once Breton finally had made his way up to the front of the field, because I feel those two would have been very close in terms of raw speed and long run speed. But Autumn got caught up in an incident that occurred at the tail end of the field while leading, ripped the whole front end of the race car up, took her out of the event. But it was definitely a statement race, showing that despite the fact she's right now down in the Light Series battling for that championship, we could end up seeing her as a full-time chartered driver competing for the championship maybe as early as next season. And I think that right now she shows she's got the grit to be able to do it, as that was a good battle right there between herself and Destin Bolin for the 4th spot. Autumn putting together another solid afternoon here at Chicagoland, at least here in the early going. Eric Monaco now taking a peek to the inside of Destin Bolin. Eric's been an interesting one, because we talk about how he's been in that dogfight for the rookie points lead, but Eric coming in with a lot of pressure, being the defending Light Series champion. He's currently right now 29th in the point standings, so he's still, I feel, trying to find his footing. We know he's with a great race team at Lake Effect Autosport, But when you come in as a former champion, and we've even seen this with Cup Series champions in their follow-up seasons, but you win the Light Series championship, almost dominate that Light Series championship. It was really only him and Benny Watson that were duking it out near the end of the season there, back in Season 1. And then you get moved up to the Cup Series. There's a lot of pressure to perform, and right now, Eric looking good, holding down the 6th position. This might be exactly the type of race that he needs to be able to establish himself, and we could see him make a push to try and run for a Cup championship here down the home stretch after the All-Star race break. Something I love here, though, look at them through the corners there. Mitchell way up the racetrack. Monaco was running the middle. Carson Gunn was right down on the bottom. Multi-groove racetrack, which allows for a lot of passing here. They utilize the grooves a lot more all the way up to the wall over in 1 and 2 than they do down here in 3 and 4. Everybody tries to get it right down to the bottom through the final set of corners, but watch here when they go into turn 1. Watch them fan out. Yeah, it didn't fan out as much. Whoa! How about that? Carson Gunn with a nice run through 1 and 2 put him, I believe, into the left rear quarter panel of Jack Mitchell, and I don't think that was contact he meant to make. I think either he just gained ground or Mitchell lost ground, and they found themselves in the same place at the same time, but that could have very easily been our first caution here. Eric Sadler, the rookie, looking on. This is 7th, 8th, and 9th right now, with Daniel Voiles holding down the final spot inside of the top 10. So we've already seen up here at the front a lot of ability to be able to make passes, and that brought up the question, what about drivers that didn't have the best of qualifying efforts? Were they going to be able to make forward progress? Well, there are some drivers that have not, but one driver that has is the points leader. James Qualls started out back. I believe he started outside the top 25, and since the drop of the green, he has made his way up to the 14th position. He's actually gotten around some drivers that did have qualifying efforts. We saw Jesse Turner and Dylan Young start up inside the top 5, and he's bypassed both of them and continuing to make forward progress as he's got Cole Deaver next on his hit list. And this is what Qualls did last week at Darlington as well. He did not qualify well, but was able to slowly, methodically, had the help of a couple of cautions to work his way up into finishing in the top 15, and that's why he comes into this race still the points leader over Levi McIntyre, who was able to net a top 10 finish last week at Darlington. Speaking of Levi, let's see where he is. Remember, he and Qualls were separated by 4 points coming into this one for the overall points lead, and there is Levi. Last time by was scored in the 23rd position, trying to make his way around the outside of Quentin Moore, who is 10th in overall standings coming to this one, and just ahead of them is Nick Gunther in the 55. Now, I mentioned when we gave you the playoff grid coming into this one, the potential playoff grid, that Nick Gunther holds the final wild card spot via points. That is in a tiebreaker. Gunther and Laura Chung are both actually tied for what is the 14th overall position in the point standings. Oh my gosh, we nearly just had a wreck right there. That was Benjamin Snyder into the back of Keith Batson. You saw it as we were focused on McIntyre. That was close. But Gunther and Chung, they are tied for 14th in overall points. The tiebreaker goes to Gunther because he has the best average finish on the season, 19.92. Laura Chung, a 20.17. And if we end up having tiebreakers further on down the road, I mean, Levi McIntyre knows about a tiebreaker between himself and Zach Rogers that ended up going down to the average finish last year for the final position in the playoffs between himself and Zach Rogers. It would go to the average finish for all the 26 races in the regular season. Benjamin Snyder, that's the second driver right there we've seen him make contact with. He just got into the back, I believe, bumped the 87 of Ryan Brommer. Snyder trying to move forward, but he's got to be careful on how he does it, coming off that great run last week at Darlington. Because of that run, Benjamin Snyder moved up 6 spots in the standings from 34th to 28th, So he would be above the cut line should he find victory lane, and that could put him in a wild card position conversation. As Connor Breton right now is in said conversation for a wild card spot after his victory last week at Darlington. 4th win of his career, 1st win this season. Last year as a rookie, he went to victory lane 3 times, and this was around the portion of the season that he ended up finding that first career victory, followed up with 2 more. We'll see if he now kind of is able to find that exact same kind of momentum streak here 1 season later. There's your rookie points leader, Summer Henson. She's been able to make her way up to the 12th spot. Cole Deaver closing in. A big gap before you get up to the next car in 11th, which is Kyler Sustre. Kyler looking good right now in that Mobil 1 Camry. He was one of 3 drivers that did not reach the conclusion of last week's race at Darlington. He was caught up in that wreck that took out then leader Autumn Brooks. Due to that, Kyler Sustre is 38th in the point standings. His first full-time season as a chartered entry out of Haas Racing. He is a former winner from last year when he drove for his own organization as a non-chartered driver. But yet another driver, and I feel like we got like a dozen of them that are all just trying to find their footing here in Season 8. LaPlante continues to lead. He's led the last 21 laps. Michael Norman did get around Jose Mills for second, but Mills is trying to battle back. Norman's going to take the spot, though. And now he'll look to see if he can close up the gap between himself and Austin LaPlante. One thing that we didn't talk about yet is potential pit stops. And the number that we've basically been told is somewhere around lap 70, 75 when these drivers might have to consider coming to pit lane here. They cannot make it the full scheduled distance on fuel. So if we continue to trend green, pit road could play a huge part into the outcome of this race. And last season, Jessica Shelton, when she picked up her first win of Season 7 en route to her championship year, she won this race on fuel strategy in such a fashion that even us up here in the booth were completely stymied. I mean, I had everybody coming to pit road, didn't realize that anybody had stayed out. Next thing I know, I saw the 94 up at the top of the leaderboard with the checkered flag waving. We completely missed watching her cross the start-finish line. That's how under the radar her fuel strategy was. And we'll see if somebody else can pull off some type of a feat like that here this afternoon. Last week, Darlington, we know, is a tire shredder, so we talked a lot about the undercut and what it could do in gaining track position. As I'm looking right now at race leader Austin LaPlante's lap times, he is already running 2.5 seconds slower than his fastest lap. Michael Norman is running 2 seconds slower, so there is going to be some time to be gained if we do have that green flag pit stops and drivers utilize the undercut. A number of drivers last week actually did gain track position because of the undercut. Charles Sanford, I know, was one of them. I think James Qualls was actually one of them as well. There were drivers that took advantage of the undercut, of those fresh tires on their outlap, to be able to pick up spots in the final finishing results. It'll be interesting to see here if any of these drivers up here inside of the top 10 might utilize that type of a strategy here, depending on if we end up having those green flag pit stops. And even drivers outside the top 10 could maybe try that exact same strategy as well. The lap times are going to continue to taper off here the longer we go as well. And we've already, as I said, eclipsed the 2 second plus mark. Jack Mitchell starting to fall off a little bit there as a couple of cars got around him. He's faded back to the 10th position. As we've been watching the front of the field, let's drop to the rear of the field, see what drivers are struggling. Caleb Fogler all by himself. The former champion about half a straightaway behind his nearest competitor. Right now holding down the 41st position, last car running with Anthony McCreary out of this race. RJ Bishop, who last week was in a playoff position, was the final driver in on points. He did not run well last week and dropped to 16th in overall standings, and he's making a pass on Benjamin Miles, who last week was very quiet at Darlington and appears to be quiet again here at Chicagoland. 7th in the overall points coming into this one. And right now he is really needing to find something, as he is at the very tail end of this lead pack. Charles Sanford, who we mentioned, was one of the drivers that really benefited on the undercut, the short pit strategy last week at Darlington. He's mired back here, and unless she's trying to pull the same fuel-saving strategy, Jessica Shelton, the defending winner of this race, mired back in traffic. 36th last time by. As a matter of fact, 3 of the 4 S3 Motorsports cars are mired back here. There's Kyle Matthews. The only one right now that's up anywhere close to the front, is in the top 15, is Cole Deaver, who's right now, last time by, scored in 14th place. Daniel Voiles doing a good job right now, currently in the 7th spot, so he looks like he could move back into the top 30 in the standings. Not the case for Nathan Ormond, the former winner this season from Manassas, who comes into this one outside the top 30 in standings, 32nd in overall points. Right now he's outside the top 30 on the running order as well. And so he could be in danger of heading into the second half of this regular season, not currently in a playoff spot, wild card or otherwise. Joshua Osborne was the slowest in qualifying yesterday, and he has made up 10 spots since the drop of the green flag. Looks like he's trying to kind of follow in the tire tracks of his teammate Quentin Moore. This weekend marks the first time ever since Joanna Atwood Motorsports became a 3-car team that all 3 cars are inside the top 10 in the overall standings. Qual's the points leader, Osborne 9th, and Quentin Moore in 10th. But right now, the 89 and the 27 struggling here, as they're both outside the top 25. Car on the apron, that's the 83 of Zachary Fitzwater. And that does not look like that is a scheduled pit stop for the driver out of Blue Oval Automotive. Fitzwater, 21st in points coming to this one, lost 6 spots after a poor performance last week at Darlington, and they are going to service the race car. So it might have been a tire going down, as that wasn't your usual type of entry onto pit road. He was down in the apron all the way through 3 and 4 to make sure he was well out of the way of oncoming traffic. We'll see if he does return back to the racing surface, but another driver encountering some issues here at Chicagoland. Anthony McCreary, the first one, with a mechanical failure, and he's out of the race. Fitzwater's going to lose at least 1 lap, maybe 2, depending on how severe the circumstances are of his unscheduled pit stop. LaPlante continues to show the way. Michael Norman right now a little less than 2.5 seconds behind him. Autumn Brooks holding down 3rd. Let's watch the battle back here for the 6th position. Destin Bolin, Daniel Voiles give the spot to Voiles as he completes the pass on the inside through 1 and 2. Bolin going to try and battle back here on the top. If you're sharp-eyed here, watch these drivers as they make their way through the corners. Watch how they kind of bob up and down. That just shows how rough this racing surface is here at Chicagoland. These drivers are constantly having to keep these things steady underneath them. Adjustments, if we end up having that green flag pit stop, are going to be key. It's all about driver comfort and being able to maximize your speed through the corners. That's determined in your lines, your throttle control, and as I said, the adjustments that allow you to not bounce on the racetrack on that splitter. As this has turned into a nice little fun battle to watch from 3rd place on back. Mills, Brooks, Voiles, Monaco, Boland, Gum, add Eric Sadler into this mix as well. And Voiles is on the move. He's been able to utilize both the inside and the outside line. He made a couple of passes right there. On the outside line, we saw him make the pass on Destin Bolin on the inside, and now Let's see what line he chooses here, as they'll be side by side ahead of him. Brooks and Mills for the third spot. Voiles going to maybe try and go lower. I think he wanted to. Autumn Brooks saw that, had him covered. And in doing so, Autumn, taking that lower line, was a little slower through the center of the corner off, and it stacked everybody else up behind her. Seems like a lot more freedom up on that outside line, especially with these tires wearing down. As I've been keeping a close eye on the interval between first and second, and Michael Norman is actually closing up on Austin LaPlante by about 0.2 seconds. It was cut to 1.4 to 1.2, and now it's down to just about a full second. So let's jump back up here to the Pizza Hut Ford Mustang and see if indeed he is going to be able to continue to put these lap times together. We could end up having another lead change here. So far, only one lead change this afternoon. When Jose Mills led the first 13 laps, LaPlante took the spot, and he's led the last 37. Michael Norman with a 34.3. LaPlante with a 34.4. So that was a full 10th right there by Michael Norman. And if he can get close enough, he might be able to also utilize a bit of the draft on the front and back stretch. I'm not going to call them straightaways because they're not, to be able to close up the gap even more. You're probably asking, why are we not calling it a straightaway? Well, take a look here. Here's the chopper cam with Michael Norman. Watch as he hits the backstretch. And watch how the line, that white line there, see how it's not straight? See how it's curving? Continuous curve to the left. These drivers are never at any point in this race turning, or they're never at this point holding the wheel straight. They are continually turning. So in a sense, this is one giant circle. It's not an oval, it's a circle. Kyler Sustre and Jack Mitchell have been able to catch up to this group now, who continue to hurt their lap times by running side by side, but it's great to see the side-by-side racing. Destin Bolin, Autumn Brooks, this is for 5th, 3rd place under contest up ahead of them. Daniel Voiles continues to charge forward, picks up another spot. I think Voiles may have the best car in the field right now. We can't really go based off lap times because he's been in that pack there in traffic for a good portion of the last 10 laps or so, but he has continually been able to make passes, and he's been able to make quick passes too. As soon as he seems to get alongside somebody, he's already cleared them about the next corner. So now Voiles is going to have clean air to the nose, and it will be interesting to see if now he can put together lap times to reel in both Michael Norman and Austin LaPlante, which, an update on that, Michael Norman, either he has lost something or LaPlante has gained something, because Austin's opened the gap back up again. That last time by, he's now 1.6 seconds ahead of Michael Norman. What might have actually come into play there, I was talking about the draft, the ability for Michael to close up. It might have actually hindered him. He might have had a little whiff of draft that caused that dirty air to get his car tight and lost him ground to the Ally Chevrolet. The air can be a blessing, it can be a curse, and as I said, here at this racetrack, you're not going in a straight line, so you don't have necessarily straight line speed with the draft, giving the ability to be able to get what we call the suck up. It could actually be that dirty air here at this particular racetrack is not a good thing in terms of draft ability. So Zachary Fitzwater has returned to the racetrack one lap down. We were going to try and find him, but now we got the 2 of Dylan Young coming down pit road. And again, this is ways outside of the window of when we are expecting drivers to pit. However, I think if they service that race car, I'm actually trying to think back to when Fitzwater pit. Depending on when the pit stop was made, Fitzwater could be able to make it the rest of the way now. Dylan Young, I think, will absolutely be able to make it the rest of the way. So while it may be an unscheduled pit stop for the 2 car, it may be the only pit stop he'll have to make today, but he's spending a little bit extra time there on pit road. They might have actually tried to get that thing just full of fuel, potentially. And he'll get down and away. He will lose a lap because of this, or is he going to lose 2 laps? We'll wait for scoring. But now he's going to hope, and also Fitzwater, if Fitzwater can indeed make it on fuel, they're hoping that this thing's going to go completely green to the end. So that way they can try and cycle up somewhere higher than where they're at in the finishing results. I'm not 100% certain where Dylan Young was running at the time that he made his pit stop. Remember, he started the race up in the 5th position, but we saw him back around 15th to 20th on the last check-in. So I don't know if he had stayed then in that area or if he had actually lost more ground or gained more ground, but we'll see if he can maintain. Austin LaPlante, though, look at those left side tires. Hook in the bottom. If we were at the old Atlanta, we'd be calling that Harvicking. Taking the shorter way around the racetrack. Sounds like somebody else is on pit road. Oh, I think that's a lot of somebody else's. Keith Batts and Kyle Matthews. Eric Sadler, Kyler Sustre, Eric Monaco. I see Matt McIntyre, Summer Henson. Michael Norman's in this lap, as a matter of fact. Nick Gunther. Pole sitter Jose Mills. Alexander Rowe. Carson Gum. So I guess Dylan actually was making a legit green flag pit stop, I guess. He just preempted everybody. Ooh, contact there between Gunther and Mills. And, ooh, did Destin Bolin overshoot his pit stall? He did. Oh, that's going to cost him. That's going to cost him a lot of track position, maybe even a lap. Cole Deaver coming in. Casey Hoyt's coming in. I was looking to see if our race leader came in. Yep, there's LaPlante. Right in behind teammate Connor Breton. Oh, that's a tough break there for Destin Bolin. We'll have to find out where he's going to be after the cycle of pit stops. That overshooting the pit stall, they have to push him back, and then it resets the car, and you're more than likely going to lose at least 1 lap here. And if this thing continues to trend green, there's just going to be no opportunity to be able to get those positionings back. I want to jump up to the 22 of Michael Norman because he went to pit road 1 lap earlier than Austin LaPlante. He's going to try and utilize those fresh tires in this outlap to close up between himself and the 48, who I think is just now coming off pit road. So this is actually going to be really close between these two when it cycles around for the race lead. And Norman does have the momentum advantage. You see him up to speed. He's going to be right behind the 48. There are a couple of cars ahead of them, though, that might have actually been able to jump ahead. I saw Eric Sadler and Kyler Sustre there. Are they right now? Yes, they are. That's 2nd and 3rd place, so who is the race leader? Or is this the race lead? No, the race lead, Zachary Fitzwater, who, remember, had that unscheduled pit stop. Now, the question is, I'm trying to remember back, and I cannot exactly pull in what lap it was he pitted. But the question is, was that unscheduled pit stop within the window to be able to make it the rest of the way? Right now, he has 9 seconds back to Kyler Sustre. Now, he'll be at a huge tire disadvantage, but he does have track position. You saw right there, Sanford, Shelton, Ormond kind of blow his doors off because they've got fresher tires. They were just to pit road. But does Fitzwater have the fuel and the track position to hang on and maybe through a sequence of unfortunate circumstances actually have this work out in his benefit to pick up his first win on the season? Let's look at lap times of his tires to Kyler Sustre's tires. 32.7 last time by. Let's wait till they cross the line this time. 32.6. What is Sustre running? Well, actually, it's now Eric Sadler, and he ran a 31.6, so he's a full second faster. You also saw a couple of drivers on pit road, James Qualls and Joshua Osborne. Looks like they might have had contact on pit lane and overshot their pit stalls, just like we had documented with Dustin Bolin. So the points leader and the driver that came in ninth in the standings, both going to finish way down in the finishing results here because of pit road miscues, unless, well, I was going to say unless we get a caution, but they're now both multiple laps down, so that even a caution is not going to save them at this point. Somebody just left pit road. I think that was Dustin Bolin, who is 4 laps down to the leaders. Joshua Osborne right now is currently 5 laps down, Qualls 2 laps down, and Caleb Fogler is also a lap down in the 28. I think Fitzwater just got around him. Or no, he was already around him, and Fogler is closing in to get that lap back. That's a teammate as well there in the 28 car. So Fitzwater will probably let him by very quickly as he looks to continue to maintain his gap, which is dwindling fast. Last check-in, less than 6 seconds the advantage. So this right here, I believe, is what we're looking at potentially to be the battle for the eventual race win. Unless further back there, 4th place, Austin LaPlante, who's led the most laps so far. Michael Norman in 5th. They might be able to close up. Same for Eric Monaco and Carson Gum, 6th and 7th. It's about another second back to Jose Mills, who's in a battle with Summer Henson for 8th. And right now, Daniel Voiles holds down the final spot inside the top 10 after the cycle. Oh, James Qualls. So, okay, so we're getting an update. The 70 of James Qualls was not a pit road miscue. He came to pit road right after he had made the green flag pit stop, and he is out of the race. Mechanical failure, second one of the afternoon. This an engine piston on the 70 car. And Qualls, who didn't qualify well last week, but had a great run at Darlington. Didn't qualify all that well this week, but was up inside the top 15. It looks like he will this week officially lose the points lead heading into the second half of this regular season. Question is, though, who's going to be the driver to take advantage? Because Levi McIntyre, who's second in points, he's not running all that well. Right now, last time by, he was scored in 26th. Carson Gum, who was 27 points back, he's up inside the top 10 in 7th, so could he be the new points leader heading into the second half of this regular season when we get to Charlotte? Well, Zachary Fitzwater, he's going to get a bonus point for laps led, but he's a sitting duck. His lap times are nowhere near as good as the drivers behind him. It's been cut down to less than 3 seconds, and you saw right there, there he is, bottom of your screen. The leaders can see him. He is going to get eaten up. Now the question is going to be for Fitzwater, if he can make it the rest of the way on fuel, how far will he fall? Can he stay in the top 10? Can he stay in the top 15? There's still a lot of laps to go, over 30 laps still to be run. It's going to be 36 laps to go this next time by. I don't know if he'll be able to hang on for a decent finish or not. A lot of fresh tires behind him. Eric Sadler has been able to now clear what's going to be a battle for, well, currently third, probably going to be second when they make their way around the 83. As Eric Sadler with a big run down the back straightaway. Ooh, I thought he might try and dive it here into turn 3, but Fitzwater on the older tires will actually take the shorter way around. Watch Sustre here with a big run. Where does he go with it? Sadler will get to the inside of the 83. Does Sustre force the issue 3 wide? No, he'll stay in the tire tracks of the 12. And look at LaPlante shoot the middle groove. He'll have a nice run here out of turn 2 down the back. Utilizes a little bit of draft off the 83 of Zachary Fitzwater. And Eric Sadler, for the first time, will go to the race lead. Eric, who picked up his first career win at North Wilkesboro as a rookie this season, looking to join Carson Gum, Dustin Bolin, his teammate, and Matt Haas as a multi-time winner here in Season 8. Talked about last week at Darlington about the ability of the rookies to really make a statement. Last year, you had all those rookies go to victory lane with Casey Hoyt and Connor Breton and Will Goss and Kyler Sustre. Eric Sadler right now, the only rookie that's been able to find victory lane, and he'd love to do it for a second time. Kyler Sustre right there behind him, though, looking for his second career win, first of the season. LaPlante looking for his first of the season. Austin LaPlante, I would have thought would be pretty high up on the all-time wins list, and he is. He has 5 career wins, which would tie him for 6th on all-time wins. Car right behind him, Carson Gum. We saw him a couple of weeks ago go to victory lane at I-69 Speedway, second win on the season for him. Right now, it is looking like Carson Gum is the prime candidate to try and topple Jose Mills for most all-time wins here in the Duracell Cup Series. Carson has 9 career wins, which ties him with Jordan Lopez and Ryan Butcher for second. Lopez is a part-time driver. Ryan Butcher no longer in the series. Only 1 win off of Jose Mills' 10. Other drivers, if you're looking at some other candidates, Michael Norman's got 8 career wins. Dylan Young, Jesse Turner, Nick Gunther with 7 wins apiece. And then Ryan Brommer, Keith Batson, Kyle Matthews, Dylan Poteet, Matt Haas, all with 6 career wins overall in Duracell Cup Series competition. 4-car fight at the front, only 1 Ford amongst them. We talked about how we thought Ford was going to dominate this race. Well, that's not really been the case. Mills had the lead to start this thing, then the Chevy of LaPlante took over. You saw Fitzwater lead some laps there with the cycle of pit stops. And now you got another Ford and Eric Sadler. So you've had 3 of the 4 drivers that have led B-Blue Ovals, but LaPlante in his Chevrolet has led the most laps so far. And now you got a couple of Toyotas up here in the mix with Sustre and Carson Gum. Eric Monaco right now holding down the 5th position. Here's some of your Fords. Michael Norman, Daniel Voiles in 6th and 7th place. And then take a look at this pack back here that's kind of formed up. Summer Henson, Zachary Fitzwater, pole sitter Jose Mills there as well. Joshua Osborne, who is right now 5 laps down. And Destin Bowen, who's also 5 down right behind him. Those two are not going to have good points afternoons at all, the 27 or the 02, as they are right now scored 39th and 40th. Literally no chance of getting back in this race, and we talked about Destin Bowen trying to keep himself ahead of the 30th in the standings cut line, 2-time winner on the season. Joshua Osborne just cracking back into the top 10 in points after last week, 9th in overall standings. He'll probably fall back out of the top 10. Kyler Sustre looked like he wanted to think about taking the race lead there from Boland. Couldn't make the move. Kyler Sustre, his only career win last year as a rookie was at a 1.5-mile racetrack at Las Vegas. So looking to get his second career win at another 1.5 miles. You look at the level of experience up here in this group. You've got Eric Sadler, rookie this season. You got Kyler Sustre, who's in his sophomore season. Austin LaPlante, who's been a veteran of this series. And Carson Gum, who's also been a veteran, but is also a champion. So there's like 4 drivers and 4 entirely different experience levels here battling for this win, as Sustre might have lost a little ground there through 1 and 2. LaPlante making the move to the bottom through 3 and 4. Can he keep the momentum up on the front stretch? Looks like he will. But will he have the advantage down here in 1 and 2? It's looked like that middle to high line has been better down here in the first couple of corners. You see Carson go way up there to the top. Sustre way up the track there, trying to get the run off of 2. It's not going to work. He went a little too high, and LaPlante, can he slide job here into 3 and take the second position? Pushing up there. You see him really riding up off the bottom. And that'll keep him side by side for the time being, or maybe the draft, the little push there from Carson Gum will clear the 48, who's also now going to try and go for the lead. He had a huge run, found a gap to the inside of the 12 of Sadler, and now he'll try and see if he can get to the left rear quarter panel down the back straightaway here, try to utilize the side draft. I think he's there. Can he make the pass through 3 and 4? May not seem like it, but there's still a long ways to go in this one. We're only right now at 23 laps remaining. Still a lot of time for 5th place on back to maybe get up in this conversation, and this lead could change a couple more times before the conclusion. LaPlante slides up in front of Eric Sadler, and he'll take the race lead back. Here comes Carson Gum with the run down the backstretch. He'll try and take the race lead for the first time this afternoon here at Chicagoland. Not going to be able to do it. You saw him get really tight, had to bail out of the throttle. LaPlante in that middle groove, able to take advantage. There are some idling engines up ahead, so traffic could come into play in the closing stages. That's Dylan Young in the 2, who is on the tail end of the lead lap. Remember, he was one of the first drivers to hit pit road, so that says to me it was an unscheduled stop. If he's not picked up any track position, that had to have been a very lengthy stay on pit road for him. So tough break there for Dylan, who considers Chicagoland one of his home tracks. Dylan Young right now a Florida resident, but he did spend some time in the residency of the Chicago area. So a bit of a home crowd race for him, not going to be the performance he was looking for. As we've now single-filed and stretched out the top 4 a little bit here. Carson, though, nice entry into 3. Might pay for it on the exit off of 4, though. It always seems to be that trade-off on old tires at 1.5 miles. You can have one corner be really good and then the other corner be really horrible. You got to give up some to be able to gain some. LaPlante going to go a little higher up the racetrack this time through 1 and 2. Carson stays closer to the bottom, as Eric Sadler was in a good tussle with Sustre for 3rd, but now he's going to clear the 4 and hold that final spot on the podium. Look at Carson drive it in there. Entered high, drove it right down to the bottom, and he's going to have a run here on the front straightaway. Does he try and make a move down here into 1? Does he have enough momentum? As we've got pit stops again. I just saw Eric Sadler give up the 3rd position to come to pit road. Lawrence Chung is coming off of pit lane. I thought these drivers were good to make it the whole rest of the way, but I guess not. We've got one more cycle of pit stops before the conclusion here. And Carson now going to try and take the race lead away from LaPlante. Unless these are unscheduled pit stops. If that's the case, that's a tough break for Eric Sadler, who was up inside the top 5, but right now, I'm waiting for scoring to update here. They're showing the 77 a lap down, the 46, the 84 of Lamas. I mean, do we have to have pit stops here? I thought we were only going to have 1 stop, but no, here comes some more to pit road. Nathan Orman, Jessica Shelton. I guess we did have to have 2 pit stops. I thought we were good for a 1-stop race. There's Cody Lamas coming off of pit road. Nick Gunther as well. It can't be a scenario of these drivers not getting it full of fuel. There ain't no way. They all took 4-tire stops here. So we'll see if any of our front runners outside of Destin Bolin end up hitting pit road. Sustre still holding on to 3rd. Daniel Voiles is up to 4th. Eric Monaco 5th. Nobody here looks like they're coming to pit road yet. Jessica Shelton and Orman completing their pit stops. Kyle Matthews, Matt Haas just coming off of pit road. I mean, are there some drivers that felt they couldn't make it the rest of the way on fuel, and we're going to have some gamblers? Look at the fresh tires of Laura Chung right there, closing up on the back bumper of LaPlante and Carson Gum. Kyle Matthews flying in there as well. That's the grip those fresh tires will give. And now the race leaders are in a situation because they're getting their doors blown off trying to figure out who they got to let by, who's got the fresher rubber around them. And still the question of when do they pit, if at all? Do they wait until we get like around 10 to go, come down, take on just right side tires, and top off the fuel tank? So going down the list of drivers that have already pitted, Eric Sadler is pit, as well as Jose Mills, Alexander Rowe, Reggie Fogelman, Nick Gunther, Dylan Pote, Cody Lamas, Matt Haas, Laura Chung, Kyle Matthews, Nathan Ormond, Jessica Shelton. Those drivers have all been to pit road already. Eric Sadler, the highest running of those drivers, down in the 26th position. Pit road looks rather empty right now, though. Is there anybody else on pit road at the moment? Does not look like it. So the question would be, why did all those drivers pit if they didn't have to? Unless they did have to, which is the case then, why are these guys staying out longer? Now Carson Gum now out in front, looking for a career-high third win on the season. That is, again, provided what his fuel situation is. This now moves a couple more drivers up into the top 10. Summer Henson's now moved up to 5th. Casey Hoyt is now up in the top 10 in 8th, with Autumn Brooks and Jack Mitchell in 9th and 10th. Do any of these guys up here have the fuel to make it the rest of the way? With having almost half of our field come down pit road not too long ago, you would think the answer would be no. But we saw fuel strategy gamble 1 season ago with Jessica Shelton. We could see it again here 1 season later. Oh, we got a wreck right in front of Carson Gum. Look out! That's Benjamin Miles and Dylan Poteet. And that almost had shades of last week at Darlington when the leader came into the vicinity of a wreck. Where's LaPlante? Did LaPlante get through that? Oh, we got wrecking going on the front straightaway. Nathan Ormond, LaPlante was in it. Oh my gosh, Daniel Voyles just got annihilated by Jack Mitchell. And indeed, shades of last week, front runners going to get caught up in an incident of drivers on the tail end of the lead lap. Ormond is done. Miles on pit road. Mitchell is more than likely done. LaPlante, I don't know about. Caution is going to wave. We're going to get ourselves a restart with less than 10 to go. And now what about the front runners? Do they pit or do they stay out? They're going to stay out. I think pit road was open that time by. What in the world just happened there? We ran nearly 100 laps caution-free. Yellow comes out. Benjamin Miles, Dylan Poteet. Some of the drivers that we saw there over in 3 and 4 that were involved, and indeed, they are the drivers that bring out this yellow. Here's a look at it. This was around 29th, and what exactly happens here? Pote just drives it in. Miles comes down. I don't know if he was throwing a blocker. That was just the lane he chose, but Pote had a much higher amount of speed. And then you're going to see Carson Gum split them. Let's watch for the 48 of LaPlante, because I don't think he got through. Oh, he's down in the apron. He's down in the apron, and he does get into the back of his teammate. There's Ormond up the track into Voyles. So Ormond's upside down. And then watch the 26 car here of Daniel Voyles. He's going to get a hit from LaPlante, and then here comes Jack Mitchell flying in on the apron. And he just nails the 26. And I said this last week at Darlington. I get it. I understand the caution's out. It's race back. But if you see smoke, your spotter's got to let you know, hey, something's going on up ahead. Slow down. We have seen, I think, a little too often this season, drivers flying into wrecks. And if they would just utilize the brakes, just the least little bit, they've got a good chance of then avoiding the wreck. But these high-speed impacts are taking them out. And well, these are two drivers here. Miles, who came in top 10 in points. Pote coming off his top 5 last week at Darlington. This is not going to bode well in their finishing results. And look at there, Carson just barely snake his way through. LaPlante was trying to get back on the track, and look at how quickly the 23 flips over after riding up on the left front of Daniel Voiles. Catches the grass and goes for a barrel roll ride, and then watch the impact here. Mitchell flying in, tried to split the gap, and he just clobbers Daniel Voiles, who goes up and actually got into the catch fence. Well, last week we had a very interesting caution right in the center of our Darlington race, near the conclusion of this week's race from Chicagoland. Again, a very oddly timed caution, and it's going to take some drivers back behind the wall to join the mechanical failures of James Qualls and Anthony McCurry. Right now, current list shows Jack Mitchell, Daniel Voiles, Benjamin Miles, and Nathan Ormond out of the race. We'll see if any other drivers join that list, as if it was going to be close on fuel for all these front runners to maybe have to make a last-minute dive onto pit road, they might have been able to save that fuel they were lacking here under this caution period. It is less than 10 to go, so it'll be a single-file restart, which means that Carson Gumb's going to have 2 lap machines between himself and second place. Joshua Osborne, who is 5 laps down, Dylan Poteet, who is 2 laps down. Then you've got the second place car of Kyler Sustre. Then a couple more lap machines in Dylan Young and Jessica Shelton before you get to third place. That's Summer Henson. Eric Monaco is going to be 4th. 5th, Michael Norman. Casey Hoyt is 6th. 7th, Autumn Brooks. Despite the contact we saw him make with his teammate Benjamin Miles, Austin LaPlante is going to restart in 8th. Cole Deaver will be 9th, and Ryan Brommer is going to break the top 10 for the first time here tonight. Benjamin Snyder is 11th. Connor Breton, last week's winner, 12th. Danny Bouchard, 13th. 14th, Jesse Turner. 15th is Keith Batson. Rest of the drivers on the lead lap, 21 in total, are Matt McIntyre, Quentin Moore, Levi McIntyre, Caleb Fogler, RJ Bishop, and Charles Sanford. Green flag back in the air. 6 laps to go here. Final run to the checkered flag at Chicagoland, and Carson under fire from the lap car of Joshua Osborne. Keep an eye on the Mobile One Toyota of Kyler Sustre. He is the second place car right now, trying to get up there to the 19. Dylan Pote with fresh tires, trying to get around his teammate. Almost stuck him in the middle of a 3-wide situation. Toyota's 1, 2, 3 right now, back to Summer Henson in the 78. Carson to the bottom. Ooh, way up the track there for Osborne. I think he's in the wall. He is. Comes back down almost in front of traffic. That was a close call. As now Carson's got someone to play a little defense for him in Kyler Sustre. Look at the difference of fresh tires to old tires here. The 12 blowing by the 4. Eric Sadler, who's a lap down. Sustre into the wall. And that might give the second position to Summer Henson. It will. Now it's going to be Summer Henson trying to pick up her first career victory. Can she close in on Carson Gum? The 19 and the 78 are the same on tires. I don't know if any of our lead lap cars pit under this yellow. It does not look like it. So nobody, at least of the lead lap cars, is going to have a tire advantage. I'm kind of shocked by that. I would have thought anybody outside the top 10 would have come down pit road under this yellow to have a shot at something, but nope, that's not the case. Eric Monaco right now and Casey Hoyt, that's 4th and 5th, but look at all the traffic they have to deal with. I think right now it's going to be 19 versus 78 versus 4, and they all are on rather worn out tires. So unless Summer Henson's able to find some kind of miracle lapse here in the next 2.5 circuits, Carson Gum just has to hit his marks. It almost looks like that 78 is faster though. But now here come fresher tires behind her. Jose Mills, Zachary Fitzwater. They could make something interesting here as it's 2 laps to go. Summer Henson closing in, but now she gets kicked up to the high groove. The faster, fresher tires underneath her. Carson's going to suffer the same fate, though. Here comes Fitzwater, Alexander Rowe, Jose Mills. How far up the track do they move him? Does Summer Henson get to utilize this to her advantage to close in? Contact! Rowe into Carson Gum! Nearly turns him around! What a save by both drivers! White flag in the air, 1 lap to go! Summer Henson is there! Can Carson Gum keep her at bay? Nearly had the thing binned over in 3 and 4. Great corner by Carson Gum as Summer Henson swallowed up by faster cars once again. Matt Haas going to move to the inside of Carson Gum. Hopefully he gives more space this time. He does. Carson's got traffic between himself and Summer Henson. And for the first time in his career, Carson Gum is going to be a 3-time winner in the Duracell Cup Series Season 8. What a career year Carson Gum is having. He got his first win at Las Vegas, his second win at I-69 Speedway, and now add Chicagoland in. This may be, I'll have to double check, but this may be the first time ever that a driver has won 3 races prior to the All-Star break. And Carson Gum, I mean, if you're looking heading into the midway portion of this regular season for the #1 contender for this championship, you might have to look in the direction of the former champ, who has been incredible here in the first, now 13 completed races, 3 checkered flags. And we also talked about the possibility of him mathematically maybe having a shot at the points lead heading into the All-Star break. That could be a possibility now with the 5 added bonus points for winning. But go back to that contact between him and Alexander Rowe going through 3 and 4. How did he not end up wrecked? Tremendous save. Hung on for the win. And Carson Gum now stands alone with most wins here on the season. 3rd win. And that now marks his 10th career victory, which ties him with Jose Mills for most wins all time in Duracell Next Gen Cup Series competition. I think he's going to break the record before the season's over if he keeps this momentum up. What a great run for the rookie Summer Henson. She had a shot there, but I think the problem for her was all the faster cars on fresher tires were taking away the line she wanted to run to reel Carson Gum in. She kept getting shuffled up to that outside line. But a career finish for her. She came in the rookie points leader. She'll definitely leave the rookie points leader into the second half of this regular season. Kyler Sustre is there as well. We talked about the Fords. We're like, the Fords are the manufacturer to beat. They look so great in qualifying. Then LaPlante comes out for the Chevrolets, leads the most laps. But the Toyotas come out and sweep the podium. How about that? Chevrolet representing the top 5 with Casey Hoyt. That's, I think, one of his best finishes on the season. Casey Hoyt came into this one. How many top 5s did he have? 3 top 5s. But he was 27th in points. The defending Rookie of the Year. Great run in 4th. And Eric Monaco going to bring home in 5th. So you had 2 rookies finish up inside of the top 5. As a matter of fact, if you kind of go back to the past 2 seasons, you have 2 rookies and 2 former rookies finish up inside the top 5 there. Good run for Michael Norman. We saw him run the top 5 most of the afternoon. He'll get 6th. Connor Breton coming off of his victory last week. Another solid outing for him as he continues to climb through the point standings. He gets 7th. LaPlante, who led the most laps, had that contact with his teammate, and I thought it might take him out of the run of a good finish. He still hangs on for 8th. That is a good run, especially with the season it has been overall for this 48 car. You got 3 of the 4 Northeast Motorsports cars that actually finish all up inside of the top 10. Ryan Brommer, he kind of came from out of nowhere to finish with a solid 9th place finish. So Brommer will stay in the top 10 in overall standings. And Autumn Brooks, a great run for her here tonight. Not nearly as flashy as it was back at Darlington, but the finish was a lot better for her. Very consistent top 10 run here this evening. How about Keith Batson? You know, we talked about him starting up there inside the top 10. Could he hang on? Be consistent. He got 11th place, so maybe we're starting to see the 39 team turn things around. Another great week for Benjamin Snyder, off the heels of the top 10 run last week, just outside the top 10 this week in 12th. Cole Deaver brings it home in 13th place. Matt McIntyre there in 14th. Daniel Bouchard in 15th place. This should keep Matt McIntyre up in the top 10 in the point standings. Daniel Bouchard had a great run last week. Where did he move up to? 18th in points, so he'll probably move up a couple more spots here as well. Cole Deaver as well, 17th in points, a great run. So keep an eye on these guys. They're getting themselves up there into the conversation, maybe for one of those lower wild card seeds into the playoffs, provided they stay in that area. They may end up jumping up even higher in the point standings when we end up getting further on into the regular season. You go further on down here, though, there are a number of drivers that looked like they were destined for really good runs and did not get them. Jose Mills and Eric Sadler, we saw them come to pit road. Caution came out. They were trapped a lap down. They got their lap back, we saw there, but they're going to finish nowhere close to what it was indicative of how good of a night they had. Eric Sadler ended up leading 12 laps. Jose Mills started on the pole, led 13 laps. Even Zachary Fitzwater, I would love to go back. I'd love to see where he was running at the time he made the unscheduled pit stop. But Fitzwater finishes 23rd. That might have actually been an improvement over what his qualifying result was. And he did manage as well to lead 12 laps when the pit stop cycle took place. So he had the misfortune of, we're assuming it was a tire going down or something, but he might have been able to make the best of it here. 23rd doesn't seem like much, but it might end up actually being a net gain. You look at other drivers, though, that did not benefit with the timing of that caution and finished off the lead lap. Kyle Matthews, Laura Chung, Reggie Fogelman. I believe for the most part, most of these drivers here were running mid-pack to rear of the field. So the caution coming out, trapping them a lap down didn't really change a whole heck of a lot. I don't think any of these drivers were necessarily in the hunt for the victory here in this one, at least not from what I saw in the first half, first 2/3 of this race. Jessica Shelton, defending winner of this race, thought maybe this is where we would start to see a turnaround for her, but she finishes 33rd, so I don't know if they really got to go back to the drawing board here for the second half of this regular season if they're going to be a back-to-back champion. Dylan Potey, we saw him involved in that wreck with Benjamin Miles, coming in with all that momentum, the top 5 run last week. This might stifle that momentum here. We'll have to wait and see. Out of the race, the cars of Jack Mitchell, Daniel Voiles, Benjamin Miles, Nathan Orman, James Qualls, Anthony McCrory. Aside from McCrory, all those DNFs, big storylines coming to this one. Mitchell, top 10 in points. Benjamin Miles, top 10 in points. James Qualls was the points leader coming in. Certainly won't be the points leader heading into the push towards the playoffs. Daniel Voiles had to get up into the top 30 in points. The DNF's not going to help him. Nathan Ormond had to get in the top 30 in points. DNF's not going to help him. So more than likely, we're going to end up seeing still drivers pointing their way into those final lower wildcard spots when we take the green flag in a few weeks' time at Charlotte. And Destin Boland's another one there as well. Had the lengthy stay on pit road after the pit road miscue, finished 5 laps down. Same for Joshua Osborne. Boland trying to stay in the top 30 in the point standings. This is not going to help him. And Osborne, who last week after Darlington moved back up into the top 10 in points, might be falling right back out again, finishing in the 35th position. So there's going to be a lot of moving pieces, I think, inside the top 10 in the point standings, around that 30th in the standings cut line as well, around those lower wildcard positions. Be interesting to see what that fallout is and what the outlook is going to look like as far as the potential playoff grid when we get to the second half of the regular season. But Carson Gum, 3 wins on the season, now tied at the top of the all-time win list with Jose Mills. And I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe is going to be your points leader heading into next week. It could be Levi McIntyre. He finished 18th. It could be Levi McIntyre, but it's going to be very close between those two. We'll let the people do the calculating. You'll see what the point stands look like in a minute, but it's going to be very, very close. But all the momentum is in camp number 19 as Carson Gum picks up his third checkered flag here of Season 8. Hope you guys enjoyed today's race here from Chicagoland. If you did, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, part of the crew today. We showed you full feature results, and these are those said point standings heading into the push towards the playoffs. We got a little stop-off, though. We're going to be at the Atlanta Superspeedway next week as it's All-Star Race weekend. We'll have the All-Star Open, the qualifying races, and the All-Star Race. That should set the tone for when we then head to the Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'll have the Duracell Ultra Light Series drivers back for the doubleheader, and it's the longest race of the season for the Cup Series drivers in the final crown jewel race, the Coca-Cola 600. Hope you guys will tune in for all that coming up in the future. Appreciate tuning in to tonight's race here, courtesy of NNSCRA TV, offline racing at its best.
The following has been a presentation of NNSCRA TV for the private use of our audience. Any other use of this telecast or any pictures, descriptions, or accounts of the game without the consent of the NNSCRA is prohibited. NNSCRA would like to thank all of our loyal fans, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.